Uh, as you may have gathered, I'm a Marxist. KARL, I actually was called after Karl Marx. My mum and dad were active communists in the Red Clyde side, in the old East End of Glasgow, where I was born in a slum. And I was brought up in the tradition of progressive politics. It was our religion, if you like, and in many ways it's a very positive thing to be a Marxist, because Marxism is optimistic philosophy, and I think in the same way as I think Darwinism is an optimistic about a biological process, that we get better, we adjust, survival of the fittest, whatever, but we get better, we improve. I live a better life than my father, and he lived a better life than his father, just for ordinary working people. And I think Lenin wrote a pamphlet called One Step Back, Two Steps Forward. Sometimes we have to do that as well. But I see generally, there was a revolutions in Marx's thesis was that we evolved socially rather than biologically, from slave societies to feudal societies to capitalist societies, and then on to socialist and communist societies, as he saw it, and where there's nowhere else to go from capitalism, and there seems to be a lot of truth in that. When the Secretary General of the East German Communist Party was asked by some gloating Western journalists when the Berlin Wall came down, what happened to your communist dream now, mate? He said, well, I give you your point, he says, but try as I might, he says, my brain rebels against the idea that market capitalism with dog eat dog, winner take all, poorest take the hindmost, is the highest pinnacle of human achievement. And if it is not the highest pinnacle of human achievement, surely I'm saying this now, surely it's the duty of human beings to see what is and how do we develop to be better. And I think we have developed socially and biologically, the more we cooperate with each other, the better society is and the better the person is. That the more socially aware we are, the happier we will be. I believe that a baby has, if you take Darwin's theory to its very base, basically the sea, and some kind of life form developing in the sea, which eventually came onto land. There was a big bang. Now that big bang I equate to conception, to sex. There's a joke there somewhere. But the big bang was sex, and then from then on we survived for 9 months in water. And I would think that was equivalent to our prehistoric period, before we came out of the sea and came onto land and learned to crawl, both as creatures and as children. When we are born, we come out of the water onto land, we learn to crawl, we learn to climb, and then we learn to cooperate. That's why we have schools, that's why we have play schools, because fundamentally families are a basic commune. We are nothing, no man is an island, no man can survive on his own, it is impossible. We are social creatures, and yet our societies up until now have always favoured a minority of people. Every society in the world has had its employer and its employees. They will dress it up as rich and poor and all the rest of it, various descriptions. But what it boils down to, one group of people who do the work and another group of people who tell them to do the work and make a profit from their labour. All of our societies up until now have had this unequal, whether it's through slave labour, whether it's through land ownership and feudalism and serfdom, whether it's to the working classes in the factories who get, like in India today, where they barely get enough. They feed them enough so they can work the next week, And we have this permanent running injustice. Now Karl Marx, I think geniuses spot patterns. And he saw that pattern, and I think it's a similar pattern to Darwin's. It's evolution, but with the occasional lurch forwards. Like in the French Revolution and the English Civil War, the break away from the power of the landowners, because the landowners with industrialization became less important, and the people moved into the cities, and the power was taken away from the aristocrats and the landowners. Although the Duke of Westminster, somewhat atavistically, is still the richest man in this country, I think, simply based on the fact that he owns Westminster, for God's sake, you know. And that is taken as the norm. But I don't think it is the norm at all. I think all wealth is created by labour. There isn't a single item in any room anywhere which wasn't caused by workers going to work, getting up in the morning, digging things out of the earth, transporting it across the earth, selling it in the shops, creating and manufacturing and polishing and shining. And no capitalist does anything there. You know, capitalists only, their capital, in actual fact, they stand around waving bits of paper and calling themselves wealth creators. They're not wealth creators. Bus drivers, train drivers, road sweepers, street cleaners, they are wealth creators. They make the society possible that we live in. And not these people who start work at 10 o'clock and go home at 4. And even if you do call it work, because most of them don't, many of them don't work anyway. Their money that works for them. And they pretend that they are somehow the wealth creators. Working people are the wealth creators, and this is what Karl Marx recognized. Now, whether working people will ever recognize it or not is the crucial question. And that is the point of political education, and that's what I'm engaged in at the moment. So at that point, I think we'll close down this little chat. Cheers.